Hey humans, how's it going? Susan Ruth here. Thanks for listening to another episode of Hey Human Podcast. This is episode 212, and I spoke with Aleah Rose. Aleah is a certified sex, love, and relationship counselor, dominatrix, plant medicine practitioner. This conversation is really intriguing. I learned a lot. It was very open. She's sex positive. We had a lot of conversation around sexuality and body positivity and sex positivity. And the conversation goes in and out of the plant medicine. So we start with the sex conversation and intimacy conversation, because those are two separate things, of course. And then we move into plant medicine, and then we go back into talking about how she facilitates her work. I want to use my voice to say I stand in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement, and my social media is lots of information there, resources, books, organizations, and such. Please check that out, and donate to the NAACP.org, ACLU.org, the Minnesota Freedom Fund. Lots of great places for resources for humanity. I've been thinking a lot about everything going on, and certainly there are people who, when you say Black Lives Matter, say all lives matter. And there's no question all lives matter. Of course, all lives matter. But that's not what this is about. And it's a much deeper issue. I think we've all seen now the videos going on all across the country of brutality. That needs to stop. The thing is it's gone on long before this week, and it hasn't always been televised. So, okay, usual stuff. Social media. Hey Human Podcast is on Instagram and Facebook. Susan Ruthism is on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can find me at susanruth.com. You can find me at heyhumanpodcast.com, where you'll also find the links page. And on there, you will get a ton of resources for every episode. This episode is no different. There are a lot of resources. Aleah sent me a ton of books and information, so definitely check that out. If you hear something in this episode that sparks your intrigue and interest, I encourage your curiosity to dive in. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please stay safe. Please love thy neighbor and treat people the way you want to be treated. It seems like a big world, but it's not. It's a small world, after all. And we're all doing the best we can, but we can also do better. I love you. Here we go. Aleah Rose, welcome to Hey Human.
Thank you so much, Susan.
Now, officially your title, Aleah Rose, Sexy Mystic.
Yes. That's right.
And what does that mean, to be a sexy mystic?
Well, it means a woman, for me, as a mystic, it's someone who develops their own sense of understanding the universe and spirituality through experience. And so rather than sticking to one particular dogma or philosophy, the mystic is someone who believes that everything is connected and, sees the world through their own set of eyes. And for me, the sexy mystic, I dabble in the sacred sexual and spiritual realms. And for me, the way to be the bridge for people is to say that I am a mystic. I'm someone who goes out and through my own experiences, draw in a sense of wisdom within myself, sharing those messages while also encouraging people to discover their own truth for themselves rather than relying on a particular dogma or philosophy. That I believe that there's a way for us to discover our own divine truth and wisdom within ourselves. And that's one of the roles of the mystics, are the ones that again, don't subscribe to anything in particular, but rely on what's going on in their own experience within themselves. And why I chose sexy is because I think that life is so juicy and there's just so much aliveness in it. And through my own explorations into plant medicine and also in the sacred temple arts, I really have learned just how beautiful and expansive it can be when we tap into our eros, our sacred fire, our sexual energy, and really have that come alive and be radiant in life.
Do you do work with both men and women, or primarily women?
I do work with men and women, and it's been such a unique journey. I started a couple of years ago on a path to become a sex, love, and relationship coach, which I am. I am certified in that. And that was for me to even heal my own kind of wounds and move through my shadows and triggers and all of that. So it started out as my own healing journey. And in that process, it has opened up, it guided me onto the path of plant medicine. It guided me into exploring, along that way, I was then guided to learn about the dominatrix and feminine dominance. And then in that, it led me to studying yoni and lingam work and massage and in healing arts. And through that, it led me into the next thing of like expanding in my, sexuality and also in shamanism, which I'm super, super passionate about. And through all of those paths, it's actually helped me lead me back to myself, to my body, to my own body's consciousness and intelligence, and really helping me find my inner guidance. And after being a mystic and traveling around for so much of my life seeking and trying to get all the outside wisdom and information, that to finally through these paths come home to myself and know what is my deepest truth and what comes alive, and then for me to be able to share that with others and encourage them to find the truth within them and come home to themselves. It's been such a beautiful gift, because I've searched my whole life for the partner that I'm meant to be with, and I found that it's me. The biggest, greatest love that I wanted so much, and to find out that it's my body that's been with me all along through this path and journey. And so that's kind of my messaging is deepening that relationship, and then encouraging others that we can all come home to ourselves, where our true love and our truth is of who we are and why we're here.
It's a very powerful statement, to coming back to oneself and knowing it's the moment when Dorothy finds out that she had the power all along, right?
Right. Yeah. And she needed to go on that journey, and I'm a huge proponent of the hero's journey. I love that so much. And I encourage people to do that. And I think it's through, for me personally, it was, taking the act of bravery. I don't know if you're familiar with the hero's journey, but, there's the call to adventure.
Sure, yeah.
And then there's the refusal to the call. And then there's the thing that happens that, propels the hero to go on their journey. And for me, it was the unexpected loss, death of my little brother. Mm-hmm. And when that happened, it totally upheaved my life, because I was like, what am I doing in corporate America? What am I doing all of this for, when I know I've been called to do deeper work? And but being so afraid of what that was and what my desires are, and how by following the little desires and leaning into my fears, it opened up, so many doors. So I can promise you, 2 years ago, it was not my intention to learn to be a dominatrix, a shaman, a priestess, a temple healer. None of those things were on the horizon for me. Yet when I look back, I see the breadcrumbs that had guided me to that path.
Mm-hmm. I want to dig into all of what you just said. But before we go further, because some people listening may not know what some of these terms are, I just want to cover yoni and lingam before we move on. So let's cover what that is.
Okay, yeah. So those are Sanskrit terms. So yoni means sacred temple, which is referred to our wombs, our pussies. For men, the lingam means wand of light, and that refers to their cock or penis. And we as women, we store so much. Well, actually, men and women, we have so much of our identity and our happiness show up in this world is really very closely related to our relationship with those parts of ourselves. And for women in their wombs, they hold on to traumas, and not just theirs, but other generations and ancestral. And so for women, if they're like, why am I blocked in my life? Why am I not receiving the happiness and joy? Or why is my body shutting down when I want to have intimacy? And for me, that was a big flag for me about this healing journey. Was my partner at the time would notice I would check out when we were having sex, that I would dissociate. And he's like, where did you go? I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, well, you left, like, you're not, present. Like, what happened? And I said, I've been told by healers I had some kind of sexual trauma when I was little. I don't remember it. I have no memory. But my body remembers. And he's like, well, get over it. Like, that was his thing. And for him, he had also actually been molested as a child and remembered it and didn't get the help for it, didn't have support. And so he's been carrying that pain, for all of that time. And so that was what spurred me to find healing and womb work and studying Kim Anami and Layla Martin. And then it led me to all these other beautiful healers and my own personal journey to heal within myself. So I understand that there's women that hold on to these things and they don't even know it. But if they look at their lives and they see that they're not vibrant, that they're finding themselves to be stressed and frustrated and overworked and dry and feeling like they're dying inside, chances are that there's pieces of them they're not connecting to inside their wombs. And then for men, so many men have performance challenges. And the lingam work that I do, I'm a very intuitive person. So whether it's body work or people's sexual organs, my hands just go where they need to go and do what they need to do. And it's almost like my hands are telepathically communicating with that person's body to say, like, go here, I need this help here. And my hands go and do that. So it's been so beautiful to be in such vulnerable places for people where they're coming with their deepest wounds and fears, and the things that hold them back in having a truly vibrant and alive life. And one that is radiant and that is expansive and that is so juicy, because that is totally possible. And to bring that kind of support to them for their bodies to do their own healing, they can't do it alone. They do, we all need each other. So that's why I feel super honored. And I just find it so ironic that the things that are the biggest taboos in life right now are actually the things that lead us to our greatest transformation and healing. So there's a part of me that wants to call bullshit on that, uncensor myself, come out and be like, this is what I do, and this is who I am, this is my face, and this is my name. Because I want to take a stand for people and claiming their sovereignty and their sexual vibrance and liberation.
Well, that is an interesting question, because it is in a way a form of performance, right? To have like a stage name or a name that goes with, for example, like a dominatrix. Generally, they operate with their stage name or their performance name, and it is that interesting duality of being so empowered and being in a position of power and not being. There's a disassociation of that, right? Of not being who you were born into. But then there's the argument of, for example, I think my parents got my name wrong. I don't think, when people say my name, it doesn't sound like my name to me. Somewhere in my brain, I say, well, I know that's what you call me, which I think it's like the British say, oh, I'm called blah. Whereas in America, we say my name is blah. And I find that really intriguing, because yes, I am called Susan, but I don't know if that's my name. It's interesting. Right.
It is. And we're in a place now, I believe, in this society where so much as we can claim for ourselves and our sovereignty, and what does that look like? And, one of the helpful things about a stage name is that it can become, if you think of yourself as an actor, like a character actor, it's something that you can truly embody and really step into. And it's kind of like the fears and inhibitions and the insecurities that you have as, normal identity, you're able to step out of and step into your empowered self, the one that leans into the superpowers, that leans into the things they stand for, and isn't being held back by, the societal censorship, which is something that I'm really, really waking up to. And I recognize that when I play, shaman is such a heavy word. Originally it was men, women. Today has kind of a different interpretation.
Sorry, originally it was, say it again.
It meant medicine woman. Thousands of years ago, the shamans were originally women, and where it is today is largely different connotation. And so, but these medicine women were ones that could walk between the worlds, that could communicate, that could bring in the healings and work in multi dimensions. And I'm finding that being in that space, and also with sexuality, that's where is just the most potent power and healing available, is combining those two. And I'm learning that for myself, and then for the people that I collaborate with, and then the people that I work with.
You said something a minute ago that I'm sure people's ears went up, as if they were puppy dogs. They went roof, but you said you let your hands go wherever they go to on your clients. So when people come to you and they are, let's just say, shut down, for lack of a better word, or they're not in touch with their sexuality or in their bodies, same as you, I believe that trauma can be passed on generationally in your DNA. And I do think that in some cases people look to their body as the enemy. Yes. in a lot of ways. So how do you approach that when somebody is in that mindset, but yet they want to be healed, so they show up? That's got to be really tricky work. If you're physical with them, if you're touching them, I imagine it gets very intimate and vulnerable. How do you provide for that space?
Thank you. That's such a beautiful question. One of the biggest things is having the conversation beforehand and understanding what their boundaries are. Letting them know that there's some things that could come up. What do they feel comfortable with? Are there any areas that they'd rather not touch? If I am given a signal, would they like me to let them know, and come to that point and see where they're at the time? It's very, very, very much about creating a safe space for them. And that's one of the biggest things that I learned as a dominatrix, is that we as dominatrixes, we create a safe space for people to come and explore all aspects of themselves without judgment. That's what one of my greatest teachers taught me. And, so there's people who are so curious, or they have these inclinations or proclivities or fantasies, and they're so terrified to share with their partners for fear of rejection, for fear of judgment, and and abandonment. And so there's a lot of people that are really kind of suffering because they want to see what these parts of themselves are being called forth. And so that's one of the things I love most about my time training and studying with the dominatrices, and in my own experiences, and bringing it into temple spaces, which has been so sacred, is that people that have had fears about what it's like to receive sensation in a way that's conscious, in a way that is energy work, in a way that is healing. Those are the things that really light me up, are the people that are like, I know that there's something more here. And getting people back into their bodies, getting them back into feeling again, and letting them know that it's okay. And creating this space where they can step into different roles, where it's not going to be who they are, and they get to try on for a little while what it's like to play in this place and in this role. And so that really informed me in creating the conversation about what are their boundaries, what are their limits, What are their curiosities? What do we want to feel when we play? What is the, what are those things that we want to try on? And so being in that space and creating that has been so powerful, and to introduce couples to ways to connect intimately in new ways and guiding them in that. And what is it like to surrender? What is it like to try these different places? So, and I bring that into all of my work. So, it's so much about the vulnerability is so there, and I'm super vulnerable too, because I'm showing up and sharing, so much of my heart and my gifts and what I have to offer. I pour everything I have into the experience with the person who comes to me that I feel called to serve.
I love the word surrender, and I think it has been so misinterpreted. One thinks of the word surrender as being a place of weakness, and as I grow older, I realize, oh no, the surrender, it was a gift. Surrender, Dorothy, to who you are and to your power. You had it all along.
Surrender, actually, that was one of the key things that really intrigued me about exploring BDSM, was being told that it's the person that's getting tied up that has the ultimate power, because they are the ones that have to surrender. And my jaw dropped, and I'm like, how can that be possible? How can it be the person that's receiving being the one in surrender and in the power position? I don't understand that. And over the course of the last couple of years, and also stepping into more of the divine feminine, her greatest gift is her surrender. That is the divine feminine. That is the greatest gift. And her greatest superpower is her longing. And her longing lives in her womb. So again, it's like, this is where women manifest, is in their longing. And so, like, I have been doing such a deep exploration into myself, into these different portals within me, these doorways that connect us as women, female bodies, to the cosmic womb, to the mother womb, to the universal. And that is where we manifest. And so, that's my exploration right now. And I know I'm a powerful manifester, but one of my friends said, have you noticed how when you try to do the masculine way of manifesting, which is, say what you want, have the vision, she's like, have you noticed how you get it, but it's not quite right? Like, it's just like a little off. It's like, it's like the painting, but it's tilted, kind of thing, or it's almost close. And she said, but when I'm in my feminine, which is receptivity, which is surrender, which is being in the longing. And she said, and I really feel in my body how I want to feel when I receive this thing I desire. Then it's the magnetic frequency, the resonance of that attracts that which she desires. And so she lets go of what it needs to look at and focuses on what it feels in her body. And it is in that feeling attraction that brings things to her. Every time she's come from that place of being in her feeling, what has come into her life, what she's manifested, has been even more amazing than what she had, even envisioned. So
yeah, and I think it's important to note too that one doesn't have to have a womb in order to manifest that longing and that bringing in. Of course, the idea of a receptacle of bringing something to oneself and imbibing it and all that. Genders start getting tricky, but it's not really about gender. It's about an energy, a feeling, which sounds very hippy-dippy, I'm sure, but it's not meant to. I think another bummer, for me at least, when I look out into the world, is that we are told from such a young age, that this goes here and this goes here, and that's male, that's female. And people, we are a mosaic. The things that we do, like when we're strong and tough, you're being ballsy, testicles, okay, fine. Or when you're being, when you're being quiet and sensitive, oh, you're being such a girl, like it's an insult or something. But, and it's interesting to me because it's like, no, I get to be all those things. I get to be male and female. And it doesn't mean anything about who I want to fuck. It doesn't mean anything about anything. It's just, we are all these things. And how, such a shame to me that shame is another great thing to dig into, of course, is that, it's okay to be all the things. We need that. A little kid running around, they don't go, oh, I can't play with that doll because I have a penis. They don't do that. They don't see color. They don't see gender. They don't see, they ask great questions like, what's that? What's that? What's that? When they see something they don't recognize, but they don't conceptualize it as opposite of them per se,
Yeah, and I appreciate you clarifying that. And I certainly don't want to try to limit anything to anyone in the audience. There's, of course, we all embody the feminine and masculine energetic, and and there's unhealthy masculine traits and wounded masculine. There's unhealthy wounded feminine traits, and then there's the empowered, sacred versions of them as well. And for instance, for me, I have a tendency to be controlling, and I found out that is a wounded masculine characteristic. And I was so shocked by that. I thought for sure that was a feminine thing to be so, in my mind, how I interpreted it is that's a wounded feminine quality, but it was actually wounded masculine. And so for me to understand, what's, manipulative and controlling and grasping and being super, super needy. And then also what is the healthier version of being empowered to state what are my true healthy needs, and, holding presence. Presence is a really, really important masculine energetic type and consciousness. And so, yes, we definitely are a combination of all those things. And I think that for we as women, I will speak for myself as a woman, I tend to look outside myself for my fulfillment and my manifestation, for others to bring me validation, to tell me that I'm special and beautiful and unique and like all these things. And so what I'm trying to, I guess, identify with, of course, men can tap into their energetic womb. They can, of course, connect to their mother womb. Of course they can. And women, we are born with wombs, and we can tap into these things that are our attractor beams for calling in what we desire. So that was only my intention to share, is that, that's, we have the power within ourselves to generate and attract and bring in what we want without having to take charge and really strive for it. And I've been taught growing up in corporate America, go for what you want and work super hard and strive, and you'll be rewarded for staying up till 2 a.m. in the morning answering emails, and you'll gain respect from people and not taking good care of your body, like, because you're burning yourself out. And I chose that because I wanted to be seen as respected, and I wanted prestige, and I wanted status, and I wanted to be seen. So I own those pieces of me that I did. And so shifting away from that into dropping into a place of play, of dance, of femininity, of creativity, of these places of me that have been so shut down, and to see how much I've come alive from that, of the joy and the radiance that's in there, of the incredible men and women that I've attracted into my life by being that frequency and that resonance. That's not a coincidence to me. And so there is so much power and potency in playing with both masculine and feminine energy, and then having partners that are the polar opposite. The greater the polarity, the more there is to play and enjoy. And that's been my personal experience.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in New England. I grew up in New Hampshire. Yeah, a little small town. And I was the oldest of a few of us kids. And it was a different childhood. How I remember it may be different from what other people would tell me, but I remember it as, being told what to do, what to think, not how to think, but what to think, what to say, how to dress, how to be, there was a very perfectionist ideology, and
religion, no religion,
Catholic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I grew up with that, but as a young, like a preteen, and then into my teenage years, I was really interested by tarot and the esoteric and palm reading and things like that, and I remember really feeling like I shouldn't need a mediary to talk to God.
And then to that, sister.
Yeah, why don't I have a direct access? And through there's just some experiences that I had, nothing too terrible with the church, but enough for me to be like, yeah, I'm not going to go for a while. And I still, I do love walking into a church. I do feel the resonance in it, when it feels good for me. But yeah, I grew up Catholic, being the good girl, being the oldest, and really cutting off pieces of me to look better than, to look good, and be a people pleaser. And so there were a lot of elements of me that I didn't tap into, my exploration, my creativity, my desire to be seen, like, all of these things that are now coming out the last few years. I've given myself permission and reclaiming and integrating these lost pieces of myself. That has been so much work to see and love, those shadow pieces, and to recognize them and bring them home to me and say, you're welcome here. And it's been such a journey of and love, and that's a lifelong process.
Did you start digging into the dominatrix idea first, or was there other things that led up to that?
So the plant medicine path. So really the sexual healing path began, and plant medicine, and then sexual healing path. And then I decided I wanted to learn to be a shaman, to be able to carry plant medicine for San Pedro, which is cactus. And it's such an amazing plant. I love it so much. And while I was doing that, I was coming to California for a quick trip, and I was going to go back to Ecuador to keep studying. And life changed, and I got plopped down in LA. And it was during that time that I was, exposed to little bits and pieces, because I so much wanted to work with men in vulnerable spaces and places. That's what, kind of guided me to pursue the dominatrix path. And that was that took months for me. I danced around that thing for months and months and months, because it was, it's taboo. It's considered illegal. There's like all these things about it, social conditioning and everything. And that path, me agreeing to step onto it, I found in the darkest, I felt it was such a dark path for myself to walk. And so many angels came, so many angels arrived in that place, and people who held me and supported me and trained me and taught me and hosted me and brought me into their homes and in their lives. And then the immense exploration in the realms that it opened, the liberation in it, and the experience is, it's one of the greatest gifts. And that path helped me fulfill so many of my desires, including one of my deepest ones, which was to live in Paris, which I've had since I was 10. And, excuse me, which I've had since I was 10. And to be able to fulfill that dream and be there, and explore the sexual positive community there. And it opened up so many doors for me that I could not have had otherwise. I came to Paris with like 1-2 names. That's it. And within a couple of weeks, I knew dozens of people, and I made so many connections. And a lot of that has been because of the the sexuality communities, and such a gift, and I'm so blessed and honored for that. And now coming back around into shamanism, I attended a really amazing retreat with a group called ISTA, the International School of Temple Arts, which completely transformed my life. I am eternally grateful for that experience. And so now I'm in a space of combining all these gifts together, and being willing to bring the taboo and having to walk with such a line of integrity and congruence and a true heart's desire to serve and help others, to go to places that most people aren't willing to go, and guide them, because I've gone there myself.
I'd like to break down these things. Let's start with the plant medicine. Go into that a bit, because I think that's something that people don't really know. They know it in the sense that they go to Whole Foods and they buy, essential oils or
Sure.
foods that are good for them, things like that, which I think that's a form of plant medicine, is eating healthy, vibrant foods, plants,
Yes.
vegetables.
Yes.
What is it for you? What brought you into that? Because I always think that the things that we are drawn to, there are these aha moments. The light turns on, and then you go down that road. So what was that for you?
Yeah, so plant medicine to me, most people are familiar, I'm sure by this point, with cannabis, and the healing powers and properties of that. And Gaia, Earth, naturally has certain ingredients of this earth that are there to meant to help people to connect to themselves, to their consciousness, to God themselves, or divinity, source, whatever they choose to believe in, the collective, energetic. I channel energies and consciousness, and plant medicine helped really expand that quite a bit for me. It's interesting growing up being a very straight edge person, because I really wanted to be a good role model. And so for me to have, shed that skin and dove into where I felt called to be. So plant medicine, there's mushrooms, the magic mushrooms, they have psychedelic properties in them. And those have been revered for thousands of years. If you ever want to look up what actually Santa Claus is, it's, it goes back into pagan times with the medicine women who would bring the psychedelic mushrooms during rituals and things like that. San Pedro is a cactus. Same thing with, ayahuasca. These are all natural occurring things in this world that help us connect to so much more beyond what our five senses and our intuition can access. And for me, there's the partiers, they just want to get high and trip and, whatever. I believe that the plant medicine will bring you as much respect and honor and wisdom as you're willing to bring to it. And so that has been a big piece for me. And I love San Pedro. San Pedro, for me, I consider it nature's joy. It is a very gentle and profound effect, insights that I had on it.
Is it a psychedelic?
Yeah, it has hallucinogenic properties in the plant itself, and you cut the pieces of the cactus a certain way and boil it down, and it becomes a brew. And it's in those states that you can access things, and I was able to do. For me, I remember the first two journeys I went on with San Pedro, and everything felt so alive. I was like on the verge of an orgasm for hours, and everything I looked around was just sexual in such the most alive and beautiful and sacred and yes way that like nothing in this world exists without sex. The plants and the flowers and all of the things and animals, everything exists because of that. And so to have such an awakening from that, rather than the Judeo-Christian view of sexuality and everything, was a real eye-opening. And then to feel it in my body, the power of it was so profound and shifted so much of my life, being in that doorway. These are these plant medicines act as doorways of accessing other realms within ourselves. And I highly, highly, highly recommend being with people who that is their mission, that is what they believe in so much, that they'll guide people, that they know how to hold people as they go through their different journeys, because so much of it is about setting up the container. And that if I can drive home to anybody with any of this work that I'm sharing tonight, so much of it is about the container that you set with who you're with, and making sure they feel that they're safe, that they're held, that they can let go, that they can surrender. They can surrender to the medicine, that they can surrender to the healing work, that they can surrender to the touch, that they can surrender to their own erotic fire and energy. It's the ability to surrender that allows them to have the greatest transformations.
Have you done ayahuasca?
Yes.
How was that experience for you?
Oh, she is a powerful, powerful medicine grandmother. She has been one of my greatest teachers, and one of the hardest ones for me to surrender to, because I know just how powerful she is. And I had a really, really very profound journey with her at the end of January that really shifted a lot of my energetic. I carry some judgment, I'll admit, about male shaman, and I think they're beautiful. I have nothing. I mean, I do have judgment, and I love them, so I can hold both of those in my hand. That there seems, and to me, my experience has been that there's this emphasis over the power of the male shaman. And yet again, the shaman originally were the women, because they were so connected through their intuition and through their gifts to the other realms. And, I was like, where are the female shaman? Where are we? Why are we doing things the masculine way, in this certain way? And so how I've discovered on my own path of stepping into facilitator and guide, I guess I'd say guide in these journeys, has been so feminine and so amazing and so much fun. The transformation doesn't have to be hard and gut-wrenching and dark, that we can go to these different profound places with fun and sexiness and joy and play, and it can be light and still be super, super profound. And that has been just one of the biggest joys for me, where I really, really feel the most alive, is being in that place, and then leading people and them having profound, profound experiences that don't have them shut down into trauma.
Mm-hmm. How does one go to dominatrix school? And also, I did not realize it was illegal. So
yeah, so it's considered sex work.
Oh.
But
it's not always sexual.
I know. I know, and that's been one of the biggest challenges for me, is that I'm like, well, I'm not having sex with my clients. That's not what the dominatrix does. Typically, professional dominatrixes are professional dominatrixes who offer trainings, one-on-one mentorships. There are some different schools. I went to a Forte Femme intensive by this amazing educator named Midori, based in San Francisco. She is absolutely fantastic. I love her. I've been to several of her classes in LA, and then I attended her intensive weekend. And the thing about a dominatrix, or a feminine dominant, is a woman who knows what she desires and what she wants and what pleases her, and is willing to say it and own it. That's really what it comes down to. I know what I desire. I know what pleases me, and I'm going to stand in that. And it's not, powerful. I don't find it
so powerful.
Yeah. I don't find it to be power over somebody. I mean, there are those dynamics, but I find that the feminine dominant is this empowered woman. I mean, you look at Wonder Woman, and that's a feminine dominant, is a woman who stands for what she believes in, knows what she wants in life, shows up for that, stands for others. Like that is the feminine dominant. And there's so many archetypes and examples of that in history and culture and literature and all of that stuff. And so for a woman to embody her power, her presence, her desire, her pleasure, like, fuck yeah, you know, like, that is hot, that is juicy, that is alive. And for women to be given permission, I have permission to dress how I want because it fucking pleases me. It's not about, am I doing this for the guy to turn him on? It's because it turns me on and it feels good for me. So there's some, again, like coming back into ourselves, like what would please me now? Well, so much of it, you know, for me, it's been self-exploration. And there's a lot of women who haven't even touched their pussy, their womb. They don't know what it feels like inside. And then they want men to have the magical solution. And then a lot of men will come with a formula, like, okay, if I press here, twist here, lick this way in 2 circles, she's going to have this massive orgasm. It's going to be amazing. And what we've forgotten is that we're not machines. I mean, you know, we have mechanics, but we're not machines. We're individuals. And I remember I channeled the energy of Paris one time, and she was like, you know, treat me like a lover, you know, like take the time to explore every part of the body and like what is it that turns this particular person on, and take the time and be slow and explore it for yourself, like what turns you on. Because again, if men know what turn you on and they see you in your turn on, that is hot. They want that. And so I love working with women in that of embodying their sensuality and their femininity and their sexuality and their power and being in that space, because then they become radiant and vibrant, and then they're tapping into what feels good for them rather than what they think their partner does. And so I, like, an example is one of my friends, I was helping her clean out her closet, and she's like, well, you know, my husband bought me this dress because he likes that. I'm like, do you like it? Do you feel hot in it? And she's like, no. I'm like, then thank you. Okay, goodbye. Like, this, we're no longer about what is going to look good for somebody else. What is going to turn you on? The guy doesn't care. If you're turned on, that's, or, you know, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be so heteronormative. The partner, whoever the partner is, you know, step into what feels amazing for you and really embody that. That is just, it's the radiance that really makes the magic.
My mom used to say, as her mother told her, she used to say to me that it doesn't matter if you are in the finest gown or your kick around sweatpants. You can be sexier in the sweatpants and the finest gown depending on how you feel. It's all about where you are with you. And that always resonated with me. And it's a hard, for me, it was a hard won battle to get back in my body.
Yeah.
You know, I was not in my body in my younger years, and because of trauma. And to once you realign and once you become part of yourself again, it's quite a marked difference with everything.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Is it harder for... this is probably a silly question because it's probably... There's no way to really answer it, but are men more shut down when you have to do that work, you know? Or how do you... Especially as a woman, do men respond well to you and not put you in that sex worker category if you are dealing with such intimate detail?
That's such a good question. I think a big filter is in how I share my work and what it is that I do. And what's been super beautiful is that there are many men who are very curious. Like, I actually enjoy, there's something called sacred spot massage, which is prostate massage. And I find that there really isn't anything more vulnerable for a man than to be penetrated in their anus, in my experience, for heterosexual men to go there. And in my trainings, my as a dominatrix, my most favorite sessions were the men who wanted femininity and, put on lingerie and step into this role play of being a woman, and then experience being penetrated, because the feminine energy that exists in all of us, we desire to be penetrated, we desire to surrender. And so for me to be in that space as the person to take them to that place, and they trust me so much in that, I find it such a huge gift and such an honor. There are men who go to a dominatrix to, step into that place, for instance, and they want to experience kind of like I don't want to say violent, but, kind of like the harder, the more forceful kind of experience. And for me, I want to honor and celebrate the feminine within them, and to make it a really sacred, beautiful experience for her that's within them. So I've been very, very blessed that men have felt very comfortable talking to me for years. So they'll come up and they'll share things with me that they haven't shared with anybody. And that was long before this journey. There's an inherent trust that I find that they experience and feel with me, because I bring such a presence, and I listen, and I'm open to them, and then they feel like they can share in ways that they really haven't with other people in their life. So I consider that to be a tremendous gift, and I hold it with such honor for the men that want to come and play in whatever realm that it is. If it's body work, if it's the dominatrix space, if it's plant medicine, or combinations of all of that. The lingam work, I'm really, really loving. I'm committed that men having a dedicated, prolonged practice with me, where we do several sessions together, rather than just a one-off, maybe going to and just getting massaged and that being it, but actually focusing on what are the blocks that are happening in their life, where do they want to expand, where do they really want to perform, because so much of who they show up as in this world is connected to their manhood. And so for me to see, where is it that you want to go, what kind of relationship do you want to bring into your life, what kind of performance do you want to have in your business and in your world, and how can we move through these blockages and places within you to release that, to move that, to give them back, bring them back into their manhood. Because there's another thing that, I think so many men have seen, men and women, so I'm shifting to the Me Too movement for a moment. I think that there are so many men that don't know how to show up now, and for good reason. There's, I'm sure at some point, some way, and I have to say that me as a woman, I can own my ownership and responsibility in times where I've let things go astray, or I've lured them or flirted, whatever. And then of course there's ones that are way off the spectrum, kind of thing. And I believe that there are men that are cut off from their hearts down, because they don't want to hurt anyone. They don't want to be, they don't want to hurt any woman. And they've seen what happens when men around them are in their rage and in their anger and in their violence. And so they've shut off these pieces of themselves and have focused only heart-centered up, love and light, and that's important. It's so important for them. And we have another half of our body that's connected to the earth, that primal fire and that energetic. And so for me, one of my biggest desires is to be that safe space for men to tap into that deeper, darker, quote unquote, but that earthy matter fire, and help them ignite it again, because we need our men. We need the men on fire and standing their ground and being so with the earth and in their erotic energy, and being able to access their anger and use it as fuel, as power, rather than
suppressing
violence.
It is so dangerous.
It's so dangerous.
Yeah, I agree with you there for sure. Do you have a slave?
Not currently. I had one that we danced around what it could look like and what it could be, and it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel right for me. The dominatrix started in temples for Inanna thousands of years ago. So she originally was in temple and serving the people who would come. And so for me, it's been this really this winding path of spirituality, of sexuality, of having integrity, and how I serve men, and how I allow men to serve me, and in what place and space. So no, I do not.
You've had one. Have you had one in the past? I know that you said you had one that you were dancing around, but have you actually had an active dom-slave partnership yet?
So if you're talking about a DS relationship, so dominant submissive, that's different from a dominant slave. So I have not had a slave. A slave is someone who their needs do not exist. It is not about them. It does not matter what they want. They have no say. Their life literally does not matter. It is only what the dominant wants. The submissive, that's a much more symbiotic, shared experience. And I do have a wonderful submissive that I've done some gorgeous, powerful immersion weekends with that have transformed both of our lives tremendously. So I have a lot of gratitude and honor and appreciation for that.
Not that you could speak for the submissive, but what is it that transforms for them on a general sense? Obviously, you can't speak for another human being, but in a general sense, what would you say is the work?
Well, for him, because he does speak often about the impact it's had on him, it's so much of it has been about how he perceives his life. He knows how to take things in stride and be able to hold himself as a man in this world in a different way, in a more empowered way, where before he probably would have been set off and like a fuse. And because of our work that we've done together, he's been able to have a more measured, balanced, calm way of handling situations. And he's even said that if COVID had happened a year ago before he met me, his outlook and how much stress he would have carried and how he would have shown up in the world would have been so much harder and more challenging for him. And because of the work we have done together and the coaching that I've done with him, he's been able to show up as such a beautiful, balanced man and leader for his family, for his company that he's a part of, and that's been a really beautiful shift, that it hasn't taken him so out of his head. He's been able to stay in his body, stay connected, stay in his heart, and these different practices and rituals that we did together. I'm a big ritualist. I love doing ritual, love doing ceremony, love getting people through transformational practices, and so much of what we did has really led him to just in all the relationships he has in his life and how he shows up in them.
You said his family, is he married?
Yes.
So is that tricky? Is there an acceptance? Do you have to, not have to, but do you get the okay from the significant other, or is this a separate deal? How does that work? Or is it always different? It's probably always different, but
yeah, it is different. So there's some clients who, I remember when I was training, there was a man who has been in the kink world for 25 years and his wife has no idea. And the dominatrix that was training me, she felt so sad for him because there was this piece of him that meant so much to him, and he couldn't share it with his most intimate partner. With my submissive, His wife is aware. They had a very long-standing relationship in that realm, and then some things shifted, and so yes, she's aware. It's understood, and and he and I have a really lovely friendship that actually has meant a tremendous amount to me. And so I think that's one of the gifts too, is that it's not a one-way street. It's not just, what I provide him, but how much he's provided for me in terms of my own growth and emotional support. It's been such a gift.
Does your family know what you do?
They sure don't. Not yet. I divulged it to my most open-minded uncle and aunt, and that's part of the falling away too of owning the power of what I do, owning the power of my love for these different kinds of work, and this. Again, like I'm in these taboo realms that provide so much transformation, and my greatest hope is that I'll find the language to be the bridge in that for them to understand something enough to know that what she's doing is beautiful, is transformational, is profound for people. It is impactful, that it actually changes lives in a deeper way. That is my hope and desire, and it's taken me being on this journey on my own and very much in hiding to build strength in it, my own conviction and confidence and belief in the work that I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I do desire to be that role model for for the younger siblings, and for my nieces and nephews and my cousins, and for them to know that lean into the things that you desire, and even if they scare you, go for it. When I mentioned the breadcrumbs thing, when I was in college, my 3 favorite classes were sociology, deviance.
I loved that class in college. I took that too.
So good. The second one was anthropology, goddess. And the third was acting. And in the acting class, I did a monologue of a prostitute. And that's not the realm, that's not the work that I do, but it's really, really ironic to see the foreshadowing that I didn't know of what could possibly be to come, but those things that really lit me up and that I enjoyed so much, and now that's what I play in. That's the magic I play in now.
Do you have a primary partner?
Not currently. I am dating a beautiful man who's done a lot of conscious work, and it's been such a fantastic exploration. I'm so grateful for the experience. We met at a Yoni and Lingam workshop, actually, so it was such a sacred night to meet and for me to experience this huge sexual fire that I hadn't felt in years and years and years, and for that kind of attraction and alchemy to be there, and then to see how can we dance in this, and what can we co-create. And there's been a part of me that I walked in being I haven't been in a true partnership for 2 years. I am so ready. And he's I just got 6 years of relationships. I'm ready to be single. And so there was this place of okay, here we are, very much in our desires, and how can we dance in that, knowing that where can we meet, and recognizing where we don't. And so that's been a huge such a gift and such a practice of love, of what is it to show up in love. And what he's provided me has been to open up so many doors of my femininity that's been so luscious and fun and juicy and exquisite. So he's, someone I desire to practice Tantra with, and, experience, connecting to the divine through sacred sexuality and conscious connection. Technically I am I am not in a primary partner relationship, and I think we're moving away from that. I think that there's the potential. We're in this day and age where we can create whatever kind of relationships we want with others, and I'm finding that I have really beautiful men that fill very specific roles in my life that I just think might be too much for one man to hold. And
again, the mosaic and the expectation that any one person can be all the things that another person needs, is to learn how to meet people where they are and either be okay with that or not okay with it. I think that's a huge thing to learn in life, in sexuality, in relationship with platonic and sexual partner, you know?
Yeah, this has been, especially during this pause in life, it has been such an opportunity for me and for my housemates to really grow and expand, and have all the pieces come up and the challenges and this time, having tools and support and ways to move through these things. And it's been, I'm so blessed to have had such a magical experience. It's awakened a lot of my gifts. And so for me, I'm very grateful for this time.
We talked about the yoni, and you said that you help people release that energy. Could you take me through what that process looks like? Because in my mind, I have heard of other yoni practitioners using digital massage and things like that to release grief or trauma, or even just someone who might not even be in touch with that part of their body. I mean, I know adult women and men who have never even masturbated. So go into that a bit, because I think people would be interested in that.
Yeah, so there's, I love that question. Thank you so much. There's different levels of connection to our yonis. And what I'm learning and understanding is that, we carry so much from our ancestral lines growing up, sexual abuse, traumas, emotional triggers, pain, like all that stored. And so the work that I have done, that I've been learning and also intuiting, so like it's like kind of an innate sense in me, is incorporating body work, massage around the womb area, the belly on the outside, full body, and then moving in as the body relaxes, the yoni relaxes, moving toward the outside of the yoni, and massaging the tissues and doing that each step with consent and permission every step of the way. So nothing is done without the woman's explicit consent, and it's easing her system into a state of opening. And then through the pelvic massage that I was trained in, having, waiting at the entrance for the invitation from her body for me to come inside digitally with a finger. And then there's different techniques that's about adding some pressure to places that are feeling tight so that it can be felt and released. And so for women that are having a hard time orgasming, they're having pain during sex, that are having pain during menstruation, that, basically anything that's stopping them from feeling pleasurable because they're stuck in pain and traumas in their systems, is utilizing light or varying degrees of pressure and going around different parts. There's yoni mapping. So there's a way to map out different points of the body where there's having, either a sharp sensation or an emotion coming up, or a story that they're remembering that's arising to the surface. So it's about going in, and one of the processes is called de-armoring. So it's helping the yoni to relax and release through pressure, and allowing the body to feel the sensation for it to be released. So the body is holding on to all these pains and is waiting for us to come and pay attention, give it some breath, give it some consciousness, bring some awareness to the piece so that it can be felt, expressed, released, and let go.
Isn't it interesting that if we pull a muscle in our back, we've scheduled an appointment for a massage therapist, but the idea that if we're not finding pleasure or even being in touch with our nether regions, that it comes with all this baggage.
Yeah.
And I imagine for my listeners that, for some of my listeners, I imagine that they're conceptualizing what that is and sticking it with a label like, oh, if I let a woman go to that place, does that make me a lesbian? Which do you find that people get hung up on what it is versus what it is? You know what I mean? What they bring to the what it is versus what you bring to the what it is, because we all bring our own paradigm.
Sure. Yeah, I have to say I've been very blessed that both men and women feel very safe with me. They'll share a lot of vulnerabilities in themselves, and that's been in every space that I've been in, and I consider it such an honor and a privilege that people are sharing secrets with me that they wouldn't have told anyone in their life, or sharing their fantasies and the dominatrix space that they haven't shared with anybody, and they have that place to explore. And with women, there's this sanctity and safety about being with other women. It's like, you understand what I feel, you understand my pain, you understand what it's like that a man isn't able to pleasure me the way I'd like, or I can't pleasure myself, or I'm feeling really stuck. And so I know that I was very shut down around women, and it took it took 2 years for me to go from not willing to get naked in front of women to like now being in a really sacred space with them where they're trusting me to help them heal. And the thing is that I think what's different with my experience with women is that I bring a tremendous amount of presence and patience and gentleness to it. So they know that this isn't like a bam, bam, let's get this on, let's get this over with. Like, they know that like I'm committed to them and their healing, because I know what's waiting for them on the other side of their pain. And, pain and pleasure are actually oftentimes the same sensation. It's just the story that's attached to it, or breath. I was told that really it's a breath that's between the difference, but it takes time for us to rewrite that what feels painful is actually pleasurable, and also releasing the stuck places within us. So, I actually find a lot of women that would never consider doing anything, and they're like, I would do that with you. Like, would you be open to helping me? And I find that a tremendous gift and honor.
Did you have this work done on yourself as well?
Yes.
And
so
that I'm curious to know what your experience with whatever you're willing to share. I don't want to pry into personal stuff, but but anything you're willing to share, because when you're helping others, all you have is your perspective of what you're seeing that way. But as the receiver, how was that experience?
Yes. So the woman, the dominatrix who trained me, had also learned to become a yoni healer, a yoni massage healer. And so she had done some training over in India or Bali, I think. And so I had the opportunity to experience one of her sessions during the time that I trained with her. And it was a really, really profound experience. It was my first time actually having a woman there. And it's not, although it's you're dealing with sexual organs and things, it's not a sexual act. It's a very sacred ritual ceremony where she's saying that like whatever comes to you is totally welcome. If you start screaming, laughing, sobbing, angry, like I'm not taking any of that personally. These are things to be released from your yoni that have been trapped inside, that haven't had the space or the permission to be emoted, to be spoken, to be expressed. And so if you orgasm, great. If you don't, great. Like I'm holding you, I'm with you in this entire process, and there's nothing wrong. There's no bad. Like everything that comes up is beautiful. And so I've done several yoni pieces with myself as a receiver. Even just a couple of weeks ago, I did some yoni work, and and in that, it was like the imprinting that I carried from my mother. A lot of her belief systems. And my mother died from pancreatic cancer, and I looked up in this book about metaphysical body elements or something like that, that a lot of the energetic and emotional markings that she had, I have. And that to me was a big wake-up call that I'm one level away of manifesting potentially what she had and died from. But I have the opportunity, I have the consciousness, I have the choice that I can do the inner work in my emotional and energetic pieces to be free of that, to release that, and to heal from that my mother didn't have access to. And so, there's, so for me, it was like shedding like these imprints and these belief systems and these pains that my mother had that I had taken on. I wanted her to be happy. I wanted her to feel better. And that wasn't my need to take on, but I loved my mom. I wanted to do anything to take away her pain, especially when she was going through cancer. And so I literally took on energetically things that did not belong to me. And so where I'm in this state now, where I'm finally like, I know I'm strong enough to take on others, and that's not mine to carry, and really, releasing that. So I've been doing a lot of yoni work, with other women to help move that debris out, to clear out that space, so that I'm in my own just health, well-being in there. And the other thing I was thinking about for women who want to become pregnant and want to have babies, I think about how they've been taught, well, eat supplements and meditate and do yoga, and and do those things to have a healthy baby. But what are you doing to clear your womb, to make sure that you're not passing on the imprints from your mother and for you and all the things that have happened in your life through your sexual history? And, those are going to could be passed on to your children. So what kind of health are you doing for yourself to free your kids so that they're coming in without all that baggage? That's a lot of my own personal journey right now, and where my journey, my direction is going. And even today I was doing yoni work on myself and using a glass wand to go inside and go into these deeper places. I felt pain, and to breathe with it and hold it and bring presence and awareness to it so that it can be free. And it starts in there for me.
It's interesting too. I think the messaging that we get not only from family members and religion and advertising and things we consume visually and orally, also subconsciously how they shift our bodies immensely. The mind is powerful and what it can manifest. So I can see that clearing being really beneficial. So what happens if the messaging is from your church and sex is wrong or bad? Or what is the messaging from film and television? If a woman is in her sexual power, she's a slut. All of that stuff is taken on, whether or not we realize it, we absorb it. So I could see how that would certainly work to help release.
Yeah, it starts with ourselves, and I do have to say I've done a lot of personal work, again, for like 2 years studying to be a certified sex, love, and relationship coach. That's a lot of time with your body, and what's been really powerful for me personally has been stepping into psychedelics and plant medicine and utilizing that as access points for me to get a very direct portal to those deeper places that are just, we have I have had so many veils and filters and boundaries and walls and, to like work through that utilizing the power of the medicine that pulls down those walls so that I can go in and do the deeper work has for me been extremely transformative. So I've found tremendous transformation in the taboo, which has been in these temple arts, which has been in these plant medicine and psychedelics and things. But so committed, like I'm doing it for myself first to really, ensure that. And then being in a co-creative space with others who are committed to this path of liberation, of awakening. And I really believe that it's awakening our wombs as women that we will reclaim how this earth was meant to be, but it starts with us.
When you do therapies, the sexual therapy with couples, for example, does that entail you you becoming part of the sexual unit, or is it something where it's more like talk therapy and how does that come to be?
Yeah, so there's a whole spectrum of it, right? So it comes down to the comfort level of the couple, and it comes down to availability. So there's just, certain factors. For me, what has been some of the most profound experiences has been for me acting as a guide. So being there in person with them, helping guide them how to touch and respond to one another, how to connect, how to communicate, how to breathe, how to re-engage in themselves in a deeper connection than most of them have experienced in their entire marriage, and really slowing things down, taking it back down to basics. And one of my favorite experiences was this couple that was very open-minded and wanted to learn how to experience BDSM in the bedroom, or kink in the bedroom. And all that the wife had known about kink was through porn, and was really, really out there. And so for me to guide them back from a sacred place of what it is to be a woman who understands her desire, what turns her on, and how to ask for it, how to play with it, how to honor and worship her partner and receive in kind. And so really showing them a really gorgeous way of tapping into something like sexuality. So many people think that good sex is what they see in porn, and it's couldn't be further from the truth, and it's actually in the connecting points and in the tantric practices, and weaving in the pieces of kink where there's, to me, it's like that. Those are the safe places for exploration in different parts of ourselves, so we can hold each other in consent, in agreement, with appropriate boundaries, with understanding those things, and build the playground to have exploration in. So for me, my favorite parts are actually when I'm able to be the guide in person with the couples. Otherwise, it's online or the phone. There's no good, bad, better, worse. It's just more about how deep do you want to go, how much do you want to feel, and when I'm in that space, also being able to do the energy work, in person with them, helping them move their blockages, guiding them to learn and how to listen into the respective yoni or the lingam, and tune into that, because each body is different. Each body responds differently to sensation in different ways. And we've been taught that, if you twist here, lick here, and tickle here, they're going to orgasm, or if you stroke this way or that way. I've been able to learn some amazing strokes that have been really cool to do. And it's such a gift to be able to share that, but also teach them how to listen into their particular lover, and to treat it like it's just a totally new terrain, a new landscape and exploration, because it is. Each person responds differently.
Holy and sacred.
Holy and sacred.
Wow, that's beautiful. I find it fascinating that the sacred work of the tantric, for example, in much of the text that I've read about, it's breathing. It's all about the breathing, and that the worshipfulness of being in each other's presence, the sacredness of the goddess, as we talked about. People are really afraid of that, aren't they?
Yeah, they are afraid of it. I think that where we are right now in society, and what we have the opportunity to, is to really be able to expand and leaning into our curiosities, and that there are enough people out there that are kind of waking up and being like, this doesn't make sense to me. And so for me, even in my own personal life, I was so clinging to, I had this one guy and I wanted to give him my sex card, my happiness card, my fulfillment card. I wanted him to have it all, and I wanted all of it from him. And what I was learning last week was Tony Robbins talks about the six different needs that humans have, and to expect that one person is going to fulfill all of those needs, or that you could fulfill all those needs for one person, not only safety and security and love and belonging, but also adventure and contribution and growth. And there's so many of those. That's a lot of pressure to put on one person. And in my esoteric studying and mystery school things I've been reading, we're moving into an Aquarian age of group love, meaning that there's like soul groups that are here together to all provide and share together our needs, our resources, our love, that it doesn't need to be left to this nuclear family of this one couple that's supposed to hold down the fort for, you know, all these generations, or within the dynamic that in the conversations I'm having and the things I'm picking up on more, there's being this crossing a threshold into being in tribes again, into sharing everything together, parenting, and like I said, the resources and the caring and the helping out the whole organism that it is. And I've been so blocked in that, and I was carrying this rock that I knew it didn't fit anymore, like this old paradigm of, you know, it's monogamy, and, you know, if you're not happy with who you're with, well, you either suffer through it, you cheat, or you break up. And that was the paradigm, and that's what I was surrounded by in all the relationships I had growing up. Very, very few couples were happy. And I think part of that is because there's unspoken desires, there's unmet needs, there's an inability to connect and communicate in truly heart-centered ways. And it's a failing model. And so now you're seeing more single people who don't want to get married, and they don't want to have kids, because they don't want to continue carrying on a world that they themselves grew up in. And so there's this opening now that I'm witnessing, and I'm stepping into myself of what is it like to have different ways of relating in intimacy levels and different experiences with connected people in consensual agreements. Not saying you're having sex with all these people at one time, and maybe you are, and that's okay, but maybe there's different levels of intimate connection, of relating, of communication and consciousness. So I feel very, very blessed, and also what an opportunity to break through these barriers. And so I feel like the sexuality realm is really blossoming, and there are a lot of people who are very, very committed to helping people do it in a way that feels safe, that feels good, and that's expansive. Because, you know, Midori once said that it's learning through kink. Kink is kind of like our last adult playground. You know, we can step in and play these roles that we can't do otherwise, and we give each other permission in consent to explore and have fun. And I think ultimately there's like this return to innocence, the return to true curiosity and play from a place of love, of enjoyment, of pleasure, of joy. And, you know, when we were kids, before we were told it was bad and wrong to do X, Y, and Z, like, can we return to that state again? And so I am releasing the shame and the guilt and the trauma and the hurt and the pain and the abuse. And that takes time. That's not a one and done journey or womb work or lingam, session. That takes some commitment. And I know that it's possible because I'm experiencing it in myself. I'm experiencing it in my collective, in my groups, and my friends, and the people that I connect with my clients, and to see the possibility of also manifestation. And that's really exciting. It's like, yeah, you can manifest by having a vision board and affirmations, or, hey, have you tried doing manifesting through sex magic? Now, doesn't that sound like a really fun way to like call in what it is that you desire, what you want to create, and what you want to see in the world? It's a liberation piece that I'm stepping more and more into, and offering that for people who are ready to be free. They're ready to awaken. They're ready to own their pleasure. They're ready to dance in that and do it with other like-minded and heart-connected people.
I wonder what would happen on the planet if everyone orgasmed at the same time.
I think a lot of beauty would happen.
Yeah, it'd be amazing.
It's a brave new world, and the braver our hearts. And the other thing too is returning back to our bodies. That's where the answers are. That's where the truth is. That's where the healing is. That's where the connection to the divine is. That's where the connection to the higher self is. And what we experience in our bodies with another person is still in our body. It's still our experience. So there's many of us, and myself included, if I had this erratic, ecstatic, erotic experience with another being, I'm like, oh, look at what this person brought to me. It's like, No, that was me. That was my body having the experience, and they happened to be an access point for me to experience deeper levels of pleasure, of happiness. And so the more that we can return to our sovereignty of, I can bring myself pleasure, and I do deserve that kind of love, and I can create safety in myself, and it's not going to come from another person. It will start with me. And again, that takes time. That's not a 1 week of meditation that, because I've tried that, and, it's taken me a while, but it's the commitment to practice and play. If you make it play, I mean, to me, I'm like, oh, I'm going to play today. I'm going to be curious. Like earlier today, I decided I was going to try to see how much of my hand I could fit inside my yoni, so that I could feel all the places inside of her, which is awesome and hysterical as I'm trying to find the right position with my legs and which way in the air and my body tipped which way or whatever. But, is that bad and wrong? To want to connect to the place inside myself that is the source of manifestation, that is the portal to God, and the divine. Is it, how beautiful is that I want to explore and understand and communicate and connect with these vital pieces of me that, of course, the institutions have told us are bad and wrong, and that we shouldn't touch ourselves and we shouldn't touch others and we should wait. Of course, they're going to tell us that, because what's going to happen if you connect to yourself and you can connect to the divine through yourself and through sacredness and through sexuality? And it's not by going to church and listening to hymns. It's about actually experiencing the vibration of the life force itself in our own bodies, and suddenly we're free. Yeah.
Amen to that, sister.
Amen. Amen and aho.
If you would send me a list of any kind of book or reference material, I have, my listeners know that I do a links page, and every episode gets its own curated section. And I think it would be really wonderful to have books that you recommend, or resources that you recommend that they can reference in the links. If you would do that, send that to me.
Absolutely.
That's
100%.
Wonderful. And I am curious, the word shaman, as you said, it was founded in the feminine. What is it? How does one... I'm trying to think how to ask this. When I think of the word shaman, I think of a very ancient existence. And I think of, the crone and the old man and all this stuff. And how does you're obviously young and vibrant and alive, and one thinks of a shaman as being 4,000 years old. So how does one become a shaman?
Well, actually, we are all shaman because we were all birthed out of nothing. And we went through a portal and came through a journey and arrived transformed. Like we all came through as shaman onto this earth, and we have connections. We are connected to the consciousness, to the void, to all that is, and we all have access to that. It's just there's some people who they've made it their life. They've gone through initiations upon initiations, and I by no means am comparing myself to any other facilitator, shaman, medicine person, period. I'm not. What I'm interested in is actually pulling in to my gnosis, my innate inherited lineage that I've had for thousands of years. Many, many, many lifetimes I have spent as a priestess, as a medicine woman, as a healer. And so for me, like, these have been the doorways to unlock the innate inherited gifts and abilities that are mine, and how I show up and share that in the world. So, there's a lot of different cultures, a lot of different beliefs, a lot of different sacred journeys and initiations, and go with what works for you, go with what resonates with you, go to what you feel called to go and to explore. For me, my desire is to bring the divine feminine, to represent her, to be an embodiment of her, also tapping the divine masculine, of course, but we could all use a really big infusion of that really gorgeous, embodied, sacred feminine, and that's where I'm I'm committing myself. That is who I've devoted myself to. And that's what I claim to bring to men and women.
I love the idea that we are born of, and they in turn were born of, and it goes all the way back as well. So not only is the lineage out here in the realms, but also it's ancestral. It's in our bloodstream. It's in our DNA. I am my great, 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 great blank. I love that idea. Again, that's that snake in and of itself, you know?
Yeah, we have, you know, there's, and this might be a little too woo, but, you know, there was a time where this whole world was magic, literally magic. It was mystical. There were the wizards and the sorcerers and incredible things. And as they were being persecuted, my belief is we had to internalize our knowledge, our gnosis, our gifts. We had to hide it within ourselves to carry it forth in our generations to come. And so to me, I believe that we can unlock these codes that are in ourselves. And that's why I think if you have a desire to go explore this random thing, well, why would I even be interested in that? That doesn't make any sense to me. I've had no access to that. Maybe that's a signal and a sign potentially that in your lineage you have these huge superpowers that you don't even know are there because they've been hidden away to protect the sanctity of it until it was time to awaken and arise again. So that's why not plan that possibility? Why not think that maybe, just maybe, each of us have tremendous superpowers that our ancestors carried with them and died with them to make sure we could bring them back onto the earth when it was time to wake up and when people were ready to own their power.
I love it. So we are the Matrix. Yeah, we are our own inception. I think a lot of these movies play on these really deep metaphysical, philosophical ideas, which I love because I think it tickles the bone of the brain and opens those portals.
Yeah, Inception was a game-changing movie for me. That was a really big game-changer movie for me to watch. We create our reality. We do. And everything that we see is a reflection, and we can shift it and we can change again. It's always available to us.
Absolutely. How might people find you if they would like to do some of this work?
Yeah, thank you. So I have a website that I am putting up together. It will be called thesexymystic.com. And I do have an email address, connect@thesexymystic.com. And I'm so committed. I care so much about helping people wake up to their full vibrance and to come alive in all of the ways, and for them to know that there's someone that they can trust to guide them and hold them with so much love and honor and appreciation and reverence. And I am in the process of creating a podcast, so that will be up soon. And if we think about all the things that have been made illegal, there's probably a good reason, because our transformation, our sovereignty, our liberation, us being able to connect to things greater than ourselves is, puts the powers, makes them nervous to have a bunch of people suddenly thinking and feeling and being alive and radiant and, expressing their fullness and showing up in their channel of their highest good and highest vision.
Very scary for people that want to control. It's a very terrifying thing to face someone that has full dominion over themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. What is going to be the name of the podcast?
I believe right now it might change, but I like the thought of "Come with me."
Lovely, nice pun. That's good.
It's all going to be very tongue-in-cheek. So my opportunity and gift and challenge is, how can I help share the good word of how more juiciness and get people switched on and turned on and feeling super alive and exploring all these, yummy places and spaces that is safe to go and, come with me. Let's go there. Yeah.
What is a good practice that you might impart on the listeners of either gender, of any sexuality, that they may take with them after listening to you talking about it all?
Yes, I mean, there's two things really. One is really paying attention to the sensation in your body. So many of us, and I am a big person with this too, like getting really stuck in our heads and stuck in our thoughts and our emotions and swirling and thinking that those things control us, which is not true. We are not those things. We're not those thoughts. We're not those emotions. So one of the biggest gifts that I've learned is, and actually from Ista, is breath, sound, and movement. So even just taking 3 breaths, so breathing really big first into your heart, and then exhaling it out, and then breathing into your belly, and then sound and movement, and then breathing into the base, breathing into our base, and exhaling out. And that helps bring us back into our bodies, back into the presence of us, and that we can access at any time. If you find yourself holding your breath, you're literally stopping life. And so much of what we're trying to do is have the flow of life move through us, our life force through us, the erotic energy through us. Another big awesome thing that I've been working on diligently, or committing to, I should say, devoting myself to, exploration within my own, for me, through my yoni, through my womb, my pussy. And it's not so much about self-pleasure, but I have like this amazing glass wand that the man I'm dating makes. He's an amazing glass blower that I use to press into these different pieces and parts within myself to find where there's things that are stagnant and need to be released. And I hold and I bring presence. I think the biggest thing we can do is bring presence to our sexuality, our sexual organs. So for those that come in with that have cocks, to even just holding your hands over your cock and breathing down into it and bringing presence, noticing the sensations that are there, having communication with it, learning how to let your cock guide you rather than your mind telling you what to do, and trusting how your cock wants to be held, touched, stroked, and making that a daily practice within themselves to bring presence, awareness, consciousness, and communication and connection to that. And then for those who come in with pussies and yonis and all that yumminess, same thing, to ask your body permission if it wants to be touched. Does the pussy want to feel something? Is it enough just to have a finger at the entrance and hold it there and let her know that you're not going to violate her, even if your mind wants to go inside, that you're going to wait until she says yes? So much of our culture has been violation even of ourselves. We're touching ourselves because we want to feel something, but to actually slow down and breathe and bring presence and reverence to these temples and these wands of light, these sacred objects of our bodies that are our connections to our highest divinity, and to hold our presence there and then be invited inward, and then to feel around and explore and hold and breathe and make it just this practice of love, of self-love. Those are a couple of gifts I'd love to leave people with. That's so much of the practice that I did. And there was 2 weeks that I went through really devoting myself to that practice. And by the end of the 2 weeks, my body was vibrating. I was going through an energetic ascension process because it was vibrating so much. And I had a totally mystical experience that night that was unlike anything I've had. I wasn't on any kind of altered medicine, plant medicine, nothing. I was completely clear. And to feel the vibration in my body and knowing that I was accessing something so profound that we all have access to, it was life-changing. So that's what it's available to all of you. And I'm so committed to helping anybody who wants to come home to themselves.
Yeah. I love that. It's beautiful. You reminded me of a lover I had once, and we had gone to bed, and we were lying in bed, and he put his hand between my legs, but he didn't do anything. He just held it there.
Yeah.
And at first I thought, well, that's weird. I wonder why he's not doing anything. And then I let go of that thought, let it float by, and I just felt the sensation of being held like that. And he wasn't, and I said to him, I said, how come you're not, I asked him, I was like, how come you're not, messing around or whatever? And he said, I just wanted to hold you. And it was a really beautiful, you brought up that memory, it was really beautiful, and I felt so safe. And it was very interesting. It was a very interesting experience. And then I was thinking that a lot of times, we self-soothe, the joke of like the man with his hands down his pants while he's watching TV, or, grabbing your own butt or something like. There's like these moments of self-soothing that we do where we touch our bodies, maybe in our erogenous zones, but we're not doing it to be sexy. It's almost, it's a connection. You're making me think of that as like the, what is it? What is it called? It starts with an O. It's the snake.
Or Uberos.
The snake eating its own tail. Yeah. That thing of where we're vibrating up, we're vibrating down, and all that energy is going everywhere. And when we do these things where we kind of reconnect to ourselves, that it creates this nice circular pattern. I'm spitballing here, but this is what it's making me think of,
Yeah, there's the microcosmic orbit, which is a Taoist practice, and it's breath work, and it's circulating our sacred energy through our bodies, and then there's a way through Tantra where you're connecting with your other partner, and you're moving that energy too, and so there's so much juiciness, if we're just willing to be open. That's the biggest thing. Like, trust me, I was one of the most closed down, shut down, judgmental people ever. And so for me to be on the other side of that, and all the worlds have opened up, and the most gorgeous people that have stepped in, and the level of consciousness and connection that is possible, it is absolutely possible. You do not have to be afraid. Just be willing to trust and have an open mind and heart. And there are those angels that will guide you through all those places.
I love that. Aleah Rose, this has been my honor. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's really it's wonderful work, I think, and the more of people like you in the world, I think it will be very helpful.
Such an honor, such a joy to be on your show. Oh, I'm just so happy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to the listeners who stayed and listened.
Oh, I'm sure everybody stayed. Thank you for listening, everyone. Bye. Rate and review Hey Human on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for listening. Bye.